This is the United States of America, one of the most powerful empires in all of human history. If we look back at the great civilizations that shaped the world, the Romans, the Mongols, the British Empire, none of them were ever as distant from the rest of the world as America is. And yet, despite this isolation, no other empire has ever exercised such dominance over the globe. Since 1890, the United States has stood as the world's #1 economy. Think about that. For more than 130 years through world wars, depressions, and global upheavals, America has kept its position at the top. Today, with only about 5% of the world's population, it controls nearly 30% of global wealth and resources. 20% of all manufacturing worldwide takes place within its borders. That scale of influence is staggering, and it raises a question: what made this possible? Before we dive deeper, make sure you hit that subscribe button to NVLX so you don't miss our deep dives into the hidden forces that shape our world. Now let's uncover the real reason America became the modern empire: geography. Let's begin with power in its rawest form: the military. Out of all global military spending, the United States alone accounts for about 40%. That means nearly half of every dollar spent on armies, fleets, aircraft, and weapons worldwide comes from one nation. But we're not here to glorify or criticize. Our goal is to lay out the facts clearly so you can understand reality for what it is. And the truth is, America's military dominance, its economic supremacy, and its cultural influence all rest on one foundation: its geography. North America is simply one of the most gifted pieces of land on the planet. Whoever controlled it was destined to shape global history. The single most important factor in America's rise is not Wall Street, not Silicon Valley, not even the Pentagon. It's a river, the Mississippi. The Mississippi begins quietly at Lake Itasca in Minnesota, before winding its way south for 3,766 kilometers, emptying into the Gulf of Mexico. It is the second longest river in North America and the fourth longest in the world. Along the way, it collects water from an astonishing 31 U.S. states. Dozens of other rivers and lakes feed into it, including the Missouri, the longest river in North America, which merges into the Mississippi near St. Louis. But here's the key: the Mississippi isn't just long, it's navigable. Unlike many rivers that are too shallow, rocky, or unpredictable, the Mississippi has the perfect depth, width, and flow for shipping. A vessel can sail from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up to America's northern border without interruption. This single river system is like a natural highway for trade and transport. And here's why that matters: moving goods by water is vastly cheaper than by land. To this day, shipping cargo by river costs between 10 and 30 times less than transporting it by road or rail. That difference is enormous. It means that from the earliest days of American history, farmers, traders, and industrialists had a built-in advantage. They could move huge amounts of grain, timber, coal, and manufactured goods across the continent at a fraction of the cost other nations had to pay. This advantage turned the Mississippi Basin into one of the greatest economic engines on Earth. Today, the river supports over 1.2 million jobs and handles about 630 million tons of cargo every single year. The trade flowing along the Mississippi alone is valued at $345 billion annually. That's more than the GDP of countries like South Africa, Denmark, or Chile, generated by one river. And the Mississippi is not unique in this role. Look at China. Its economic rise was built on the Yangtze River, the third longest river in the world. 40% of China's GDP depends on the Yangtze, with 2.6 billion tons of cargo moving along it each year. Two of the world's biggest economies are, at their core, river empires. But the Mississippi isn't just about trade routes. It also irrigates the most fertile farmland on Earth. On the western plains, where the climate is dry and sunny, wheat thrives. On the eastern side, with its humid air and rainfall, corn and soybeans dominate. Together, these crops made America the world's agricultural powerhouse. The U.S. is the largest producer of corn, second in soybeans, and fourth in wheat. And here's a staggering fact: 92% of America's agricultural exports are tied directly to the Mississippi system. From Kansas wheat to Iowa corn to Illinois soybeans, everything flows to the world through this river. No empire in history has ever controlled such a vast, fertile, and easily connected agricultural region. The Nile gave Egypt power, The Tigris and Euphrates built Mesopotamia. The Mississippi gave America the breadbasket of the world. Rivers may have made America strong, but coastlines made it global. The U.S. has about 20,000 kilometers of coastline, the 8th longest in the world. But it's not just about length, it's about access. Unlike Africa's coastline, broken up by peninsulas and islands that block easy routes, America's coasts are smooth and open. And here's the real advantage: the U.S. has ports on both the Atlantic and the Pacific. On one side, it can trade directly with Europe and Africa. On the other, with Asia and Oceania. No tolls, no middlemen, no need to cross other nations' borders. This dual ocean access gave America an unmatched trade network. Britain's empire once relied on sea power, but it had to maintain colonies and refueling stations around the world just to keep its ships moving. America doesn't. Its geography gives it natural dominance of the two most important oceans on the planet. Geography didn't just help America trade, it kept it safe. On its east lies the Atlantic Ocean, stretching 5,000 kilometers to Europe. On its west, the Pacific, nearly 10,000 kilometers wide. For centuries, these vast waters were the ultimate shield. Crossing oceans to invade is almost impossible. Just look at history. In 1940, Nazi Germany conquered most of Europe, but failed to invade Britain because its army couldn't cross the mere 33 kilometers of the English Channel. If 33 kilometers was impossible, how could anyone cross thousands of kilometers of open ocean to attack the United States? That's why America has never faced a true foreign invasion in its history. The closest came in World War II, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. But Hawaii is still 3,800 kilometers from the U.S. mainland. For 200 years, the homeland itself remained untouchable. But geography isn't perfect. The Mississippi, America's great strength, also creates a weakness. Every ship that carries goods from the Mississippi Basin to the world must pass through the Gulf of Mexico. And sitting right at the mouth of this route is Cuba. If Cuba ever blocked this passage, America's economy would face a devastating blow. Alone, Cuba is too small to pull this off, but another superpower could use it as a strategic weapon. This nearly happened in the 1960s during the Cuban Missile Crisis. The Soviet Union placed nuclear weapons and troops in Cuba, right on America's doorstep. The U.S. responded with blockades, covert operations, and ultimately forced a withdrawal. To this day, America keeps Cuba under heavy sanctions, fearing that a strong Cuba could be used again to strangle its trade lifeline. Another reason America became a superpower lies beneath its soil. The U.S. has vast oil and natural gas reserves. Even if the entire OPEC cartel cut off exports, America could still fuel itself. Over 90% of its energy needs are met domestically or through Canada. Food security is another gift. Thanks to its fertile farmland, America has never faced a true famine in its modern history. Its grain surpluses not only feed its own people, but also make it a crucial exporter, giving it influence over countries dependent on U.S. food. Minerals add another layer of strength. America has the 5th largest gold reserves, the 4th largest iron ore reserves, and abundant coal, copper, and rare earth minerals. Unlike nations that must import these essentials, America is resource-rich from within. Of course, geography alone doesn't explain everything. Leadership and vision mattered too. The Founding Fathers understood the land they controlled and built a system to maximize its strengths. They invested in canals, railroads, and later highways, amplifying the natural network of rivers. They encouraged immigration, bringing in waves of labor and talent from around the world. But the deeper truth is this: America's rise was, in many ways, inevitable. Scarcity never really haunted the U.S. The geography gave it rivers for trade, farmland for food, oceans for protection, and resources for industry. Compare this to countries in the Middle East, plagued by deserts and scarce water, or to Africa, where fragmented geography hindered unity. The U.S. was simply dealt the strongest hand in history. Of course, America faces problems today. Social divisions are growing. Violence, drugs, and unemployment remain challenges. Rivals like China and Russia are testing its influence. Technology is changing the balance of power, but from a purely geographic and economic standpoint, the U.S. still has an enormous head start. Its rivers still carry goods. Its farmland still feeds the world. Its oceans still protect its shores. And its coastlines still open directly onto the world's 2 greatest trade routes. So, when we look at the United States not as a nation of politics, culture, or ideology, But as a piece of geography, its dominance becomes clear. It was inevitable that whoever settled this land, nurtured it, and connected it would one day shape the world. The Mississippi, the coastlines, the farmland, and the oceans, they are the silent forces behind America's power. Empires rise and fall, but geography remains. And America's geography may be the greatest advantage any empire has ever had. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the hidden forces behind American power, make sure you like this video and subscribe to Envilex. It helps us bring you more stories about the geography, history, and strategy shaping our world today. Take care of yourself, and we'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.